Hi everyone, it's Helen Horta here, founder of Form Help, and we are on the smarttraveller.gov.au website, and I'm going to do things a little differently from today. So instead of reading and posting up updates from the Australian government for each country, I will be doing a segment called the Daily Update, but it won't be daily, but it's just called the Daily Update. So on today's Daily Update, I'll be reading updates from the Australian government for the countries of Russia, Estonia, Latvia, Finland, UAE, Indonesia, Oman, and Tunisia. Now, if you want to only listen to the update for a specific country on today's list, then go to the timestamps below in the description box and click on that country and you'll go straight to that update. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so we'll start with Russia. The latest update was updated on the 4th of March and it's still current as at today being the 6th of March. And it reads, do not travel to Russia due to the security environment and military conflict with Ukraine. If you're in Russia, leave immediately using the limited commercial options available or private means if it's safe to do so. So the Australian government has authorised the voluntary departure of dependents of Australian embassy staff in Moscow. So the security situation could deteriorate further with little warning, so remain vigilant and avoid any protests or demonstrations. Now, if you're in Russia, register your whereabouts on the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade's registration portal for Australian citizens in Russia, so see the safety section below for details on how to register. Keep your registration details up to date to ensure we're aware of your situation and can provide you with the latest information, and continue to monitor Smart Traveller for updates. Now, commercial travel routes between Russia and Europe have been impacted by measures taken in response to military action in Ukraine. A number of Russian airports are now closed to the public, and there are reports that train services from St. Petersburg to Helsinki are limiting passengers to Russian and Finnish citizens. So if you're planning to depart to Russia, confirm with your transport operator that services are still operating, and there are reports of non-Russian credit and debit cards being declined in Russia, so be prepared with alternate means of payment should your cards be declined. Now, if you decide to stay in Russia, review your personal security plans, and you're responsible for your own safety and that of your family. Make sure your travel documents are up to date, and if you have significant concerns for your welfare or that of another Australian, contact the Consular Emergency Centre on 1300 555 135 in Australia, or +61 2 6261 3305 outside of Australia. Now, the Australian government does advise do not travel to Russia overall due to the security environment and military conflict with Ukraine. Now, again, the advice levels: do not travel to Russia and do not travel to North Caucasus. Now, please take note that if you're already in this location, you should consider leaving if it's safe to do so. And if you do travel, get professional security advice, and your travel insurance policy might be void and the Australian government may not be able to help you. Okay, so if you do scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read. So make sure you do have a read of that information. And that is the latest travel update from the Australian government for Russia. Okay, next we will go to Estonia. Okay, now let's get straight into reading the latest updates for Estonia. Now, as we can see here, it was updated on the 4th of March, still current as at the 6th of March 2022, and it reads, the land border is open between Estonia and Russia. Commercial bus and rail routes are also available. You'll need to comply with Estonian border rules and requirements, including on COVID-19. Now, visit the Estonian Border Guard websites for more information. Entry into Estonia depends on where you're traveling from and whether you've been vaccinated or recovered from COVID-19. Now, you may be required to undertake 10 days of self-isolation if you're traveling from a country with a high risk of COVID-19 Omicron variant. Now, you'll need to present a traveller's declaration form prior to arrival, and proof of vaccination is required to enter many venues in Estonia, so see the travel information below. Now, the Australian government does advise exercise a high degree of caution in Estonia due to the impacts of COVID-19. And again, the advice level is exercise a high degree of caution, pay close attention to your personal security and the current health situation, and monitor the media for new and existing risks. And scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read. read, and I will place links in the description box below. But that is the latest travel advice update from the Australian government for Estonia. Next we'll go on to Latvia. Okay, so now we are on Latvia, so let's have a read. So we can see here that it was updated on the 4th of March and it's still current as at today being the 6th of March 2022, and the latest update reads: Latvia's land border are open with Russia and Belarus for those travelling by car or commercial bus. There are no passenger rail options currently running between Russia and Belarus and Latvia, so visit the Latvian border guard websites for more information. Latvia has lifted most state of emergency measures. You no longer need to have a significant reason to visit Latvia, and you no longer need to fill out Latvia's arrival form COVID pass before arrival. Latvia accepts Australia's COVID-19 vaccination certification. If you don't have a vaccination certificate or a certificate of recovery, you'll need to present a negative COVID-19 test result 72 hours prior for RNA, 48 hours for rapid antigen on arrival. So children under 12 are exempt, and some venues in Latvia will require a COVID-19 certificate for entry. Now, the Australian government does advise exercise a high degree of caution in Latvia due to the impacts of COVID-19, and then higher levels apply in some areas. Now, the advice levels, again, exercise a high degree of caution in Latvia. So pay close attention to your personal security and the current health situation. Monitor the media for new and existing risks, and reconsider your need to travel to areas near the border with Belarus. So again, avoid non-essential travel, do your research and check that your insurer will cover you. And if you do travel, take extra precautions to protect yourself from security and health risks. And as normal, there is more advice below, so make sure you come to this information below if you need to. And that is the latest travel advice from the Australian government for Latvia. Our next one is Finland. Okay, so let's get straight into reading the latest travel updates for Finland. So as you can see here, it was updated on the 4th of March and it's still current as at today being the 6th of March 2022, and the latest update reads: the land border is open between Finland and Russia. Commercial bus routes are also available. Currently, only Russian and Finnish citizens are able to board trains from Russia to Finland. So visit the Finnish border guard websites for more information and see the travel information below. Now, if you're from outside the EU Schengen zone and were born in or before 2006, you must provide certain documentation to enter Finland. If you can't provide these documents, then you must have an essential reason for entry. Within Finland, you may be required to show a COVID-19 passport to enter or attend some events and venues, and see the travel information below. Now, the Australian government does advise exercise a high degree of caution in Finland due to the impacts of COVID-19, and again, exercise a high degree of caution, pay close attention to your personal security and the current health situation, and monitor the media for new and existing risks. And again, there is more information below, so have a look at that as you need. And that is the latest travel update from the Australian government for Finland. Next, we'll go to the UAE, or United Arab Emirates. Now, as you can see, we are up to the United Arab Emirates. So the latest update. So this was updated on the 4th of March, still current as at today being the 6th of March 2022. And the latest update reads: you no longer need a COVID-19 test to travel to UAE or quarantine on arrival if you're vaccinated for COVID-19. Now, missile and drone attacks on the UAE have occurred in January, so further attacks are expected. So be alert, monitor the media for developments, and follow the advice of local authorities, and see the safety section below. Check the latest information for travel to and from or connecting through Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and again see the travel information below. Contact your airline for updates on entry or exit requirements, as these may change at short notice, and delays and disruptions are likely. Now, the Australian government does advise exercise a high degree of caution in the UAE due to the impacts of COVID-19 and the threat of drone and missile attacks. And again, advice levels is exercise a high degree of caution in the UAE, so pay close attention to your personal security and the current health situation and monitor the media for new and existing risks. If you scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read, and that is the latest travel update from the Australian government for United Arab Emirates. Next, we will go to Indonesia. Okay, so we're going to read the latest travel updates for Indonesia. So as you can see here, it was updated on the 4th of March, still current as at today being the 6th of March 2022. And the latest update reads, if you've received 2 or more doses of a COVID-19 vaccine, you must quarantine for 3 days in a hotel in your city of arrival. You must undergo a COVID-19 PCR test on arrival, and on day 3 of quarantine, children can quarantine for the same period as their accompanying parent or carer. Children under 12 are not required to be vaccinated to enter Indonesia. Partially vaccinated 12 to 17-year-olds may be required to complete vaccinations by local authorities while in quarantine. Check the latest vaccination requirements for children with your travel provider or an Indonesian embassy or consulate before travel. Now, the Australian government does advise exercise a high degree of caution in Indonesia overall due to security risks and the impacts of COVID-19, and higher levels do apply in some other areas. And again, the advice levels: exercise a high degree of caution, avoid non-essential travel, do your research and check that your insurer will cover you. If you do travel, take extra precautions to protect yourself from security and health risks. And then reconsider your need to travel to Poso Regency in Central Sulawesi and to Papua Province. Now, avoid non-essential travel, do your research and check that your insurer will cover you. And if you do travel, take extra precautions to protect yourself from security and health risks. Okay, so if you do scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read, but that is the latest travel advice update from the Australian government for Indonesia. Next, we'll go to Oman. Okay, we're going to read the latest travel advice updates for Oman. Now, as you can see here, it was updated on the 4th of March and still current as at today being the 6th of March 2022. And it says, on arrival into Oman, you have to show proof of a COVID-19 vaccination, at least 2 doses of a recognised vaccine. So see the travel information below. The Australian government does advise exercise a high degree of caution in Oman overall due to the impacts of COVID-19, and then higher levels apply in some other areas. And again, the advice levels: exercise a high degree of caution in Oman, so pay close attention to your personal security and the current health situation and monitor the media for new and existing risks, and then reconsider your need to travel to border areas with Yemen. Now, avoid non-essential travel, do your research and check that your insurer will cover you. And if you do travel, take extra precautions to protect yourself from security and health risks. And if you scroll down below, there is more information there. And that is the latest travel updates from the Australian government for Oman. Now we're going to go to our last one, which is Tunisia. Okay, now we are on Tunisia. So the latest travel advice update was updated on the 3rd of March 2022, and it's still current as at today being the 6th of March 2022, and it reads, if you're fully vaccinated, you must show evidence of vaccination on arrival. If you're unvaccinated or partially vaccinated and over the age of 18, you must present a negative PCR test not exceeding 48 hours of travel, or a negative rapid antigen test within 24 hours prior to travel. Now, tests must include a QR code, so unvaccinated or partially vaccinated travellers over the age of 18 must self-isolate upon arrival for 5 days. Now, the Australian government does advise reconsider your need to travel to Tunisia overall due to the impacts of COVID-19, and higher levels apply in some areas. And looking at the advice level, so again, reconsider your need to travel to Tunisia, avoid non-essential travel, do your research and check that your insurer will cover you, and if you do travel, take extra precautions to protect yourself from security and health risks. Now, it says do not travel to the militarized zone south of the towns of Al Borma and Dehiba, within 30 k's of the border with Algeria and within 40 k's of the rest of the Libya border area north of Dehiba. Dehiba, including the town of Ben Guerdane and immediate surrounding areas. Now it says do not travel, so if you're already in this location, you should consider leaving if it's safe to do so, and if you do travel, get professional security advice. Your travel insurance policy might be void and the Australian government may not be able to help you. So do not travel to the entire governorate of Kasserine, including Mount Chambi National Park, Mount Salom and Mount Samama. Mount Magila, located between the governorates of Kasserine and Sidi Bouzid, and Mount Urbata, located in the governorate of Gafsa, east of the city of Gafsa, between Al-Qasar and Sened. And reconsider your need to travel to areas south of and including the towns of Nefta, Duz, Medanin and Zaris, governorates of Lakif, Jinduba and Sidi Bouzid. Okay, now if you scroll down below, there is more information there for you to read, and that is the latest travel advice updates from the Australian government for Tunisia. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a great day, everyone.